All right, box clicked.
All right.
Yep,
What's
I'm ready.
what's going on, everyone? This is the Mental Health Awareness stream. You guys have all been watching, so it's good to see you. Hopping in for this part of the stream. I'm Radical618, accompanied by Hui and Buckshot George. And for the next hour, a little bit under an hour, we're going to talk about mental health counseling and its importance and why it's involved with mental health awareness. Uh, so, um, while the disorders are really important to talk about, um, because they are. That's what mental health is. That's the basis. Mental health counseling is just as important because without it, we can't offer help to the individuals who are um, struggling with these disorders. So that's what we're here to talk about. Hui, Buckshot, you guys got anything for the viewers?
Bucky, you can go
Yeah,
first.
just to yeah, cool. Just to kind of say hello. I'm Buckshot George or Bucky or Anthony. I'm currently undergoing mental health counseling, so it just seemed like a good idea to hop in with Radical for the stream. Um, I've kind of had problems with anxiety, panic attacks, and OCD since my early 20s. And yeah, it's just kind of to have a chat about it and well, see what other people kind of dealing with and kind of get the conversation going from there and just lead from what Radical's saying. Who?
Yep. Well, I'm Hui. You probably seen me before earlier and just a little while ago. Um, uh, as far as my experience with mental health counseling, I actually, well, me and Radical are both majors in psychology, and so we both have a pretty good idea of what entails as far as mental health illnesses and their treatments and whatnot. And so it's definitely something that needs to be talked about because, of course, everybody talks about the different various mental disorders, diseases, what have you, but not very many talk about the types of treatments that are out there because there's a bunch that can actually be helpful, some experimental,
Mm-hmm.
but in the end, it's all for the best of the person. And so
Yeah.
hopefully, we can get some questions answered if anybody has any.
Yeah. And
With Radical being the more experienced, so you can direct him to her.
well, with that being said, and I do just want to throw out a disclaimer, and you guys have seen it in the chat all day long. Most of us are not mental health professionals. I am a mental health professional, but with that being said, I'm not going to be doing any counseling during the stream. I can't offer any counseling, but I can offer directions for you guys to go if you do have any questions about counseling or therapy. So please don't be afraid to ask for resources or anything. I'm not going to be diagnosing anyone or anything like that, but all questions and
Oh,
experiences are welcome in the stream. We want to hear them. We want to be able to support and validate your experiences, and that's what we're here to do. Validate mental health counseling and sort of destigmatize it, because it does also have a stigma attached to it as well. It
Yeah, I
looks
think
like. Oh, go
it'll.
ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, no, you're
No, I was
totally
just
fine.
gonna on the back of what you said. I'm sure it'll be mentioned a number of times today. It is definitely something to talk about. So yeah, just everybody get involved and yeah.
Yeah, it looks like already in the chat we have someone stating MGS Hound says that their anxiety attacks began when they were in their early 20s as well. So it seems like we have some similarities across the board. I'm wondering if MGS or even Anthony, if you guys sought counseling, which we know Anthony did, for your
Um,
anxiety, what sort
not
of
not
help did you get?
yeah, not initially.
Sure.
I mean, it's I don't know if it was kind of a bravado thing or something like that. But when you're kind of in your early 20s, you think you know a lot, but you don't really know that much.
Sure.
Sorry, that kind of sounds a bit condescending. You don't know
No,
as much as what you do from the benefit of age. So
yeah.
you maybe didn't pay as much attention to something when I was that age, and it was a really weird thing because I've always been quite a confident and outgoing sort of person. To sort of start experiencing that what was seemingly out of nowhere, I kind of didn't know what to do with it for a lot of years. I kind of put a lot of avoidance tactics in place, just to kind of stay away from what's the word I'm looking for? Situations where I would kind of feel,
Triggers or things like that,
you know,
sure.
yeah, triggers and things like that. So it wasn't until years later when I actually went to a doctor and sort of sought out medication and counseling.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can definitely tell just the way that you're speaking about anxiety and speaking about the way you've sought help that you have been through counseling. You know, you're using words
Yeah,
that are really important when seeking help. Um, I will say you brought up an interesting point about being in your 20s, and sort of the scary thing about
yeah,
when disorders pop up. A lot of times, it is when people are just coming out of being a teenager, you know, when they're finishing, you know, towards the end of adolescence and all
okay,
their hormones are changing. And the scary thing about that, which is kind of what you brought up, was that people in their 20s, and I'm in my 20s, you know, people in their 20s often dance around the subject. They don't want to deal with it. Oh, I'm fine. You know, I'm invincible. I don't
yeah,
have to. I don't have to deal with this issue right now because you know it'll pass. And unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't. So.
yeah. And I mean, that was very much the case with me. The anxiety kind of ended up turning into panic attacks, and then the panic attacks kind of turned into the sort of OCD, which has actually just been recently diagnosed as well. So that was something that I've only found out about in the last few months. So it's always going to be an ongoing process. You just kind of get used to managing it and finding the right help
Yeah,
and taking it from
absolutely.
there.
Yeah, and you bring up another good point, which is finding the right kind of help. You know, within mental health
Yeah,
counseling, with the stigmas that are attached to it, you know, there's different levels of mental health counseling, and sometimes people, when they think about it, they think about the most intense type of help, which is, you know, this the stereotypical, you know, inpatient, like you're going to be locked away and not have any freedoms or
yeah,
anything like that. And from my experience, I've worked in psychiatric hospitals, and even in those types of settings, you know, you're not locked away, you have your rights, and you know, the whole point of that type of care is to help people get better. Um, but not all counseling is that kind of counseling. Not You're not always in a hospital setting. You know, sometimes you're in a nice
no,
office. You know, you're in a comfortable area where you don't feel as afraid, and that's really important too. That counseling isn't just seen as this hospitalization process. That's not always the case.
yeah. It's not the '70s anymore, and it's not One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
It's you've got comfortable surroundings and kind of like a safe place to be open with
right.
whatever it is that you're dealing with. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's really important that people know that. And when I have had patients in the hospital that I worked at or I interned at, they oftentimes were surprised at how nice the surroundings were for them. Like, yes, they were in a hospital. They were in the hospital until the psychiatrist determined that they were healthy, but they weren't, you know, treated like a prisoner. They were treated like a patient in a quote unquote normal hospital, someone who was seeking help for a broken leg or a heart attack or something like that. You know, it's not about making you feel any more uncomfortable with who you are. It's about making you feel comfortable and getting you the help you need.
Yeah, definitely.
Hui, any in terms of child psychology, any
Right,
input
right.
in
Well,
terms of seeking counseling
no,
for
definitely.
children?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to children, I mean, from what I've learned, I mean, it's a little bit different than adult counseling because, you know, children are not really readily able to explain how they're feeling because they're not even sure what they're feeling themselves, as opposed to an adult, which, you know, can pretty much explain to somebody how they're feeling. So they're, in terms of counseling, it's a little bit different. They call it play therapy, which, of course, you know, they get to play with toys, and as they're playing with toys, and they get to act, you know, the doctor, of course, is asking them questions that the child could use the actual toys to answer the question because some children are just kind of confused as to how to explain things. And some of them are just afraid to explain things because they don't know how the adult's going to react to what they have to say. And so with play therapy, it makes it so it kind of diffuses the situation and the conversation a little bit, gives them enough freedom to speak candidly without worry of some kind of, I don't know, punishment, which it's unfortunately the fact some kids feel that they're going to get in trouble if they say, well, I feel bad and this is what's wrong with me and I don't want to talk about it because I might get in trouble. And it's not the case.
Exactly.
We want them to talk.
Yeah, play therapy is definitely on the rise along with like sand tray therapy and stuff like that too. So, and it works tremendously for children along with adults. I mean, I had to try it as part of my graduate school program and I loved it. I was like, if I could play with toys to express my feelings all the time, like, I mean, that's kind of what we do with video games. So it's sort of the same.
Exactly. Yeah. This is our therapy.
Exactly. Looks like we have some comments in chat. I don't want to ignore our wonderful viewers. MGS Hound is offering some insight to their struggles. I don't know if you're male or female, so I'm using the their pronoun because I don't want to label you incorrectly. So I really appreciate you, MGS Hound, offering those experiences with the chat. And it says, let's see, so you finally got the right psychologist, and he sent you to a psychiatrist who got you on some meds, and you started to be able to deal with the attacks better, and that's really good. Sometimes, and I think kind of like what Anthony said, sometimes finding the right match for a practitioner is important too. You could think you're the best counselor in the world, but if you don't connect with your client, you're not going to help them the way they need help. So it's really good that you're able to find a psychiatrist and a psychologist and even a counselor, potentially, who points you in the right direction. Looks like Mystic.
I agree with that.
Go ahead. I'll get to Mystic Rose next.
Cool.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that I agree with the fact that you want to find something that's good, because obviously you want to go to somebody that you're not able to talk to, because sometimes, for instance, some guys are uncomfortable talking to a girl, they want to talk to another guy, or maybe they're uncomfortable talking to a guy, they prefer a girl. You definitely want to pick the right person that fits you.
Sure.
I mean, as for if me in my case, I mean, I could care less who I talk to. Just it could be a random stranger, as long as I get a chance to actually just express myself and let them know how I'm feeling. And I personally would prefer talking to somebody that I have no clue who they are, because they really can't judge you because they don't know anything about you, and they just hear what you have to say for its face value, and that's pretty much it. Which sometimes that's all you need. Yeah,
and I've had many people, especially over the internet, which again, not counseling, but I've had people say, it's why is it easier for me to talk to people I don't know over the internet than to talk to people in my life? And I, sort of give them whatever answer I give them, but then I say to them, that's why people seek counseling, because you want to have this third party, almost someone who doesn't know all the ins and outs of your life, sort of talk to you and work with you therapeutically, instead of someone who knows you personally, knows what makes you tick, knows what makes you angry, try and deal with your issues, your struggles. And it's nice to have that person who doesn't know all your ins and outs.
No?
Okay, so MGS Hound is a male, so that's good. I can say he now. Thank you for the
clarification. He's a male.
There we go. I didn't want to assume. What were you going to say, Anthony?
There was just a point which you made before when you were talking about MGS Hound, and what you were saying. It's a case of kind of not giving up if something isn't working for you.
Yeah, good point.
Because it isn't one size fits all. There's loads of different types of medications, different types of therapies and stuff like that. And if one thing isn't working for you, don't give up and think, oh well, if this doesn't work, then nothing's going to work, because something will.
exactly. Yeah, that's a great point, and that's goes right along with what we were saying and what MGS was offering up to. Oh, I died. Sorry, stream. So it looks like Mystic Rose 276 says, I work at a university with a very good psychology department. PhD students do intern work with counseling students, faculty, and staff. And then I'm assuming Mystic Rose is a girl, which I guess I shouldn't. So they went to her for an entire year last year after your mother passed. Sorry to hear that, Mystic Rose. And she had a phenomenal experience and her counselor helped her in many ways, which is awesome. I went to a university, which most universities have a counseling not only department but service for their students. And I actually had a friend who I was living with at the time who passed away. He died suddenly in our apartment, and I had severe anxiety as a reaction, and I sought out a counseling department at my undergrad university as well, and they were phenomenal. And you know, it's really important to remember that there's resources for mental health counseling, and to make sure that you're feeling well, feeling healthy everywhere. Universities, you have community health clinics, you know, internet chat rooms that are therapeutic, you know, not just potentially ones that you might find yourself in on, I'm going to maybe age myself, but, you know, AOL or wherever chat rooms are now. But,
Wow, AOL.
I know, right? I just thought of AIM. It came to me like a dream. But there's resources everywhere for mental health. And I think you, Mystic Rose, who is, yes, a female, tremendous, brings up a really good point about resources and knowing where to look and seeking them out. She also said, never teach family how to drive. It's easier to take it. Oh, I see. It's easier to take advice from someone else. If it's family, sometimes it's difficult. Okay. I see what you're saying. I was like, yeah, that could be stressful. Let's talk it out. But yeah, no, that's a good point, and that goes right along with what we were saying too. Sometimes hearing it from your family it could bring on feelings of shame or embarrassment, but hearing it from someone else may reinforce how you're feeling, which is good. Yeah, Danny Kicks says even his community. Dancy Kicks. All right, I'm not going to assume. Dancy Kicks could be a female or a male, because Dancy Kicks is phenomenal. Okay, Dancy's female. Thank you.
Yeah.
She says even her community college had a counseling department. That's awesome. I know sometimes community colleges don't have that option. So that's really awesome to hear that a community college did have that option. That pleases the counselor and me very much. I'm sorry, I don't know anyone's gender, and I don't want to offend anyone. Everyone's laughing at me in chat. It's fine.
It's nice that you're being considerate enough to mention that you don't know.
Yeah.
I would have just guessed and hope for the best.
Well, I was wrong. Well, I thought it said Danny, actually, to be fair. So I was like, Danny's a male name, typically, I suppose. But it said Dancy, so. I'm not helping at all with the objective, no big deal.
That's
Oh,
cool.
you're fine.
You concentrate on the chat.
I am. I'm killing.
Me and Huey will do a bad job of keeping you alive like we did in the last round.
Well, actually, I didn't know that you rezzed me, and then I died immediately. And I felt a little silly. I looked up and I was like, there's no way I haven't been able to respawn yet. I must have died. Oh, good. They're all telling me they're not laughing at me. You guys can totally laugh at me. I can take it. I like being laughed at.
Laughter is the best medicine.
It is.
Certainly is.
MGS Hound says, Thanks to AIM, every 27-plus-year-old can type 130 words a minute and spell almost everything wrong. I am 25 and I can do that, so 25 and up. Let's change that just so I can be included. It's funny. Anthony, I was going to ask, just in terms of talking about resources and seeking out mental health counseling, how did you come across your current mental health counselor, or just originally?
Well, well, basically I went back to my GP. So when I'm talking about, when I mentioned before, it's kind of, it's not one size fits all. Lots of things can and will help. I've been taking medication for a number of years. I currently take citalopram.
Mm-hmm.
Just a low dose, because I haven't, the problems which I had been having have been getting better for
Good.
sort of over the past few years. But I kind of felt like the tablets weren't really working anymore, and it was trying to do something different. So I basically went to my GP, and it wasn't so much ask, it was more sometimes you've got to basically tell them what you want. And I just said, and I just said, I want to try therapy, I want to try counselling, talking to someone. I'm quite big on talking, as you can probably tell, because I've rambled on enough already.
No.
So it was just basically to do something different, and I'm not saying that medication's a bad route to take, not at all. It's just that I really wanted to try something different, something new, and see if that kind of helped, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so far it has.
Yeah, I think it's so nice to have you in here, because you're bringing up so many really good topics. I have to try and keep track of them while looking at the chat and playing. MGS Hound does say he knows a good counselor if I get my feelings hurt. Thank you. That's true. Any future mental health counselors out there, never counsel yourself. It does not end well. So one thing you did say, Anthony, and feel free to jump in, Manny, if you have anything to say. You said that you have to sometimes talk to your practitioner, tell them what is working and what isn't. Advocating for yourself is so important.
GPs, which would just be general practitioners, the regular doctor type people,
Sure.
have obviously got certain sort of remits that they can and cannot step out of. So basically, if you find that something isn't working, it might be a case of just telling them, and because they don't necessarily have the expertise in a mental health field, so it might be a case of where instead of asking, you've just got to kind of say, I think this will work. I would like to at least give it a try,
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was basically what I did. Somebody I know, has been going through it and mentioned it, and I just thought, you know what, it's time to try something different to what I was doing, just taking the medication, and see if there's anything else out there that could help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. So I appreciate you commenting on that. Did you have anything to add? I didn't mean to cut you off there, Manny.
No, you're fine. I was going to say, yeah. I mean, it is, because everybody's different. I mean, the treatment for everyone, every person is not going to be the same. I mean, there's just no, one kind of treatment for everything, because, we're not made that way. We're all unique. We're all different. We all have, different ways of seeing the world, and so what might work for one person is definitely not going to work for the other. So I mean,
different strokes for different folks.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And so there's always alternatives. If something's not working, there's something else. I mean, one person shouldn't just, I can't be helped because the treatment didn't work on me, so I'm just going to give up. I mean, there's always other treatments available. So don't just assume that they can't fix me, because it's not true. We can fix you, promise.
Yeah. We can help you fix yourself, really, is what we do,
Yes.
And a lot of people, one of the not stigmas, I suppose, one of the misconceptions. All right, stream, did anyone just see this orb disappear? Unless it wasn't an orb, that was really upsetting. Anyway, that was really sad. one of the misconceptions sometimes people have about counseling is that we, as mental health professionals, can fix you, and we can give you advice and tell you how to fix your life and make everything better. When we do want to help you get better, and we do want to help you be and be happy and all of that, but we help you fix yourself. It's really important that people know that. So many times I've had clients in my young professional career come up to me and say, well, what advice can you give me for dealing with depression? What advice can you give me for dealing with my anxiety attacks? And I have to tell them very straightforward, I'm not giving you advice. I'm working with you based on who you are as an individual to steer you in the direction that's good for you. I can't tell you what to do. You have to do it for yourself. And sometimes that's the hardest part of counseling for people to grasp onto, but once they get it, it's, you really see a difference, and that's when people start to change and feel better, is when they advocate for themselves.
You have to, right. No, you're right. You have to want to get help first before anybody can help you. I mean, you can't begin to just counsel somebody unless they want to actually be helped.
Exactly.
And, unfortunately, it's not everybody wants help. Some people just like to go out of them alone and, necessarily work, but you have to want it before you can actually begin to help anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we got stuff going on in chat, and I don't want to miss them. I also don't want to die. So hold on, chat people. I'm going to get some cover and let these guys do their job here. Weapons Panic, what's up, Weps, says doctors can make good guesses, but only you know what's really working or not for you, which is what we've definitely talked about. Mystic Rose, I'm getting killed, says kind of the same thing. You have to be an active participant in your own healthcare, which is exactly right. You can't get help unless you're seeking it. Your parents could push you, your spouse could push you, your best friend could push you, but until you're pushing yourself, that's only when you'll get it. And so that's a great point.
It's definitely not the same if somebody's forcing you to do it.
Exactly.
I mean, because you don't get the same out of it if say, well, I'm going to make you go, you got to go to counseling, because if not, then, ultimatum. No, that's not how it works. You got to let the person be able to want to do it for themselves. Because if they don't want it, then nobody's going to be able to help them.
Exactly. MGS Hound says one thing that was big for him was sticking with the medication they put him on. Yeah, that is important. He said, I quit a few times because it made me feel even worse at first and then for several weeks, but you have to trust your doctor and stick with it.
That's actually a really good point about medication, because it's not like you're taking a headache tablet.
Right.
It can take sort of 2, 3, 4 weeks to kind of really get into your system, and you start to feel the benefit of the medication. So that's actually a really, really good point there. It's not like you take a pill and it goes away. Unfortunately, it takes a bit more than that.
Yeah. And with that, I do just want to point out, and I know, most of the people who are watching the stream may have some connection to mental health counseling and mental health as a subject area, so they may know this, but you might not. There are differences among mental health practitioners. Everyone has a different role. Sometimes people like to think a psychiatrist is like the top of the pyramid, when in reality, you talk to any team of mental health professionals and it's more of a team, so we're all sort of on the level playing field. We just do different jobs. So if your psychiatrist is telling you to take a certain dosage because that's what you've discussed between each other, do that, because your psychiatrist is going to know what's best for you in terms of medication. A psychologist is generally going to do very similar things to someone with a mental health counseling degree. For example, I will have a master's degree in mental health counseling, whereas a psychologist is going to have a doctorate in psychology. So it's a little bit different. They're doing more research. They're publishing more research, etc. Whereas mental health counselors, which is what I'm pursuing, we're more field work. We're kind of more hands-on, etc. So it's important to know the differences between the two. and or between the three, etc. And just recognizing just because the psychiatrist is telling you something doesn't always mean they know what they're talking about. And just because a mental health counselor is telling you something doesn't mean we always know what we're talking about. We specialize in different things, but we're a unit and we all work together. You'll oftentimes have people who are going to a psychologist, who are going to a psychiatrist, and who are going to a mental health counselor, and it's because we're all providing different services. So just throwing that
Yeah,
out
the
there.
biggest difference is one of them can
Yeah.
prescribe medication, the other ones can't.
Right. Yeah, that is the biggest difference. And people like to think because of the weight that people hold in terms of medication, which isn't always wrongly placed. Medication saves people's lives. But not everyone needs medication to get better. And so, just sometimes people think, oh, well, this psychiatrist can just write me a script for, Xanax and I'll be fixed. When in reality, the statistics and the research shows that a combination of psychotropic medication and mental health talk therapy, mental health counseling actually is the best combo. That's where the most strides are seen in someone's mental health.
Yep, I agree. There's no one cure-all pill out there in the world.
Exactly. I've had clients tell that to me. Say, can't we just find the one pill that's going to make me feel better? And I don't laugh at them.
Unfortunately.
But, well,
Yeah.
I'll have to say no. Unfortunately that's not the case. There's, you have to work for your health, and everyone does in some capacity have to work for their health, whether it's physical or mental or whatever. Everyone works to stay healthy.
The more you talk to people about it, I mean, we've kind of touched upon speaking to people that you don't know as opposed to speaking to people that you do know. It's amazing how many people could be on the same medication as you and you won't even know it. Like a couple of years ago, I was at a wedding, and obviously friends and their respective girlfriends, wives, whatever, were all there. And I mean, I'm quite open with my problems and or issues that I've had, so it's no problem for me to kind of talk about them. And as soon as I mentioned that I was taking citalopram, like seriously, out of about a group of 10 of us, I think about 4 or 5 people
We're
were just
on
saying
it.
straight away, "Oh yeah, I'm on the same thing," and it's
Sure.
just that stigma which may be attached to it might mean that people don't talk about it as much, but you'd be totally and utterly surprised, or maybe it's not surprised, I don't know, just how many other people are dealing with similar issues.
Right. Yeah. And that's really important as well. There's times and places for people to talk about what's
Oh, of
going
course,
on with them, but when you find that group, or when you find people who are going through the same thing, your mind just gets put at ease, and you feel like someone understands you, and
Yeah.
that's the beauty of support groups, which are also accessible pretty much anywhere. You Google anxiety support groups in my area, and a list will pop up for you. And those are really helpful and important. That's why group therapy exists, because sometimes people are a little scared of group therapy at first because they've never been in a situation like that. But once everyone comes together and recognizes, hey, we're all dealing with this too. Let's put our minds together and get healthy together. It's really a beautiful phenomenon. Let's see.
Yeah, because some people are kind of scared to talk, one-on-one with somebody, and that's kind of prevents people to seek out counseling. But I do think that group counseling probably would have an added effect, because the fact, like you said, people are going through the same thing, so you don't feel alienated.
Right.
It's not just you against the world, and you have people that are sharing the same experiences you have. It might not be exactly the same, but you could have something. You have something, in common, and you can actually talk about it after therapy. You can, maybe remain friends and actually help each other.
Yeah, and that's why things like Alcoholics Anonymous exist. That's why NA exists. Because you can't do these things on your own. It's just not possible. And We definitely advertise, find people who are going through this too, because they're getting help, you're getting help, you both want to be healthy, you guys will both have experiences that you can lend each other to help yourselves move forward. And that's what mental health counseling is. Just continuing to help people feel better. Let's see. Weapons Panic says it's hard to talk about what you're feeling, especially when it feeds into one of your anxieties. That's a really good point. Um, in fact, in my experience, both with experiencing anxiety, but even just experiencing clients who have severe anxiety, oftentimes they'll say, it's not even I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. It's not even the subject, the thing that's making me scared or anxious. That is what I'm anxious about. I'm anxious about being anxious because I know how terrible it is. I know what the feeling is like, and it's so awful. It's so awful. And the fact that anxiety itself can be a symptom of anxiety that's scary. You're
Yeah.
trying to escape it and feel better, but you can't because you're scared of how you might feel if this happens. You're scared of what might happen, and you're scared of what you might feel like. It's like a double whammy. I don't know if anyone in chat or anyone, if Anthony, if you've experienced that, but it's a very real phenomenon, and it's hard
Without
to
a
come
doubt,
back
but
from.
uh, yeah, totally. The sort of things that make you feel anxious, even just talking about them can bring on those sort of those unwanted feelings, in my experience, and again, this is just myself.
Sure.
Talking about them again, just trying to push past that sort of maybe what we call a barrier that might be preventing you from talking
Sure.
about them. And again, I want to stress that, that will not be right for everyone.
Right.
Especially with the counselling that I've been doing. I've admitted to kind of certain parts of what was making me anxious, which I've never kind of shared with anybody apart from my wife before. But the actual ability to be able to share them with someone was quite relieving, and
Sure.
kind of felt like that weight had been lifted a little bit. So, on the one hand, yeah, I can totally understand that, we're not all the same, and it can be really difficult to speak about. But, don't give up on it. Give it a try, because I definitely think that, you talk about your mental health counselling. They can only help you as far as you can kind of share with them sometimes. So it might help to just try and push through and share something. You never know what the result might be.
Sure, yeah. And the mental health counselor in me wants to make sure that anyone participating in the stream or in chat, if you are going to do this, make sure you're doing it with a professional and that you feel ready. Don't force yourself into something because you hear that it's working for other people, or my sister
Yeah, of course,
Susie is going through
That's
counseling,
why
and
I kind of stress that.
she did this and it worked for her, so why isn't it working for me? And yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly what Anthony was just saying. Oh, I died. Sorry, stream. But yeah, that's a really good point. Manny, do you have any insight on how on kids, or how they respond to working with each other
Well, I
in
mean,
terms of mental health? Or
well, I think it's having two kids, two teenage boys. I mean, they seem to, when it comes to like emotional stuff they have at home going on, here around the house, it seems like they're able to talk to each other a lot better than to talk to an adult. So sometimes talking to other kids is a lot easier than talking to an adult because, of course, sometimes adults scare kids, and that's just, it goes
yeah,
with the territory because
sure.
adults can be scary.
I'm an adult and I get scared
And
by
so,
adults.
right, yeah, me too. Certainly, like some people are, I don't want to talk to that guy because he's kind of scary looking.
Right.
But, with kids, I mean, again, kids are a different breed of people. I mean, some of them, a lot of people like to think, well, this treatment will work on these kids because it worked for the adults, but no, it doesn't work that way because their psychology is different when it comes to a kid and an adult. So I mean, a lot of the things that would work for an adult would have, if it probably wouldn't work and might have ill effects on the child. So I mean, it's a little bit different when it comes to child psychology. I mean, from what I've learned, I mean, I think that kids talking to other kids, like in a group setting, is actually helpful, along with the play therapy. That's also helpful. I mean, there's different methods that allows them to be open with their feelings, especially with a little bit older ones, because teenagers obviously are very emotional creatures,
Sure.
and that's just
Yeah.
trying to be nice. Teenage
Yeah.
angst is what it is.
Right.
Sometimes it might seem like they're blowing things out of proportion, but they're actually feeling something, and so we really can't look past it thinking, oh, it's just teenage angst. I mean, sometimes it is, but other times it's an actual cry for help, and it shouldn't be ignored.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, you brought up a good point about like aged people, especially with teenagers and kids, being more reluctant to speak to people who might not be in the same age group as them. Um, and this is, seen with adults. It's seen with like Manny said, with young kids, with teenagers, with young adults, etc. Um, and that goes the same for individuals struggling with different types of disorders. People who are struggling with addiction, um, they're going to be more likely to talk to other people with addictions. Again, that's why AA exists. That's why NA exists. People with depression are going to want to be in a support group with other people in depression, because what help are you going to feel like you're getting if you're in a group with people who are, you know, experiencing psychotic features and you're experiencing depressive features? And what help is that going to be to you? Possibly nothing.
Yeah. Oh, I got the middle one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I'm over
mean,
here
it's
at
funny
B.
because some people would like how do I say this? You obviously you don't got to go to a car mechanic when you have problems with your, say, your air conditioning.
Exactly.
So they can't relate. They have no clue what you're talking about, and so sometimes you got to go to the right person to deal with the right problem.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to even what Anthony said about, and this is not true of all general practitioners, but a general practitioner isn't someone who's studied in-depth mental health care. Not a psychologist, not a psychiatrist. How can they be providing you with mental health care if they don't have a specialized education in mental health? And again, I'm not speaking for all general practitioners. Some general practitioners know mental health very well, but that's why we exist. We specialize in that field. We know what we're talking about usually. And you want to go to the right kind of person to receive the right kind of help.
Definitely.
Let's see.
I got A.
Weapon says
No, this is said over there.
not just the psychology, but the physiology, of children and young adults are different and in flux compared to the relative stability of the adult biochemical makeup. Weps. Oh, I just ran off the map. Everyone got to see that on stream. I was so impressed with what Weapon said that I ran off the map. Phenomenal.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a really good point too. There's, brain makeup, brain chemistry, all that kind of stuff is different in adults than it is in children. And you got to take that into account. It's a really good point. And Dancy, who is it her, says that a lot of it is having a feeling of community and sameness, and that's really what can bring out the ability and the want to be able to talk about mental health issues or struggles that someone might be going through. And that's a really good point as well. Weapon says, LOL at the mechanic analogy. I'm a trained mechanic and I could fix a household AC. Of course. Of course.
Well, you're the exception to the rule.
Yeah, You are the exception. Weps,
There's always one of them guys.
you make people fall off of Prison of Elders maps with your brilliance, so you're the exception. For sure. Mudlin Through says, and I saw that you're Dads of Destiny, so I'm assuming you're a male. That he has been struggling with depression since he was 11. That's been 40 plus years. That's phenomenal. You're definitely
A long time.
Yeah, and the fact that you're still here, you're still pushing, you're still fighting. That's really positive and inspiring. We're glad that you're stopping by and participating in the chat. And hopefully you're a positive advocate for mental health counseling. We do have about 10 minutes left of this stream. If anyone has any questions about mental health counseling for Hui, Buckshot George, or I, Radical618, please ask. We are not all professionals, but we have been through enough to be able to give our experience and our knowledge and hopefully answer some questions before we have to turn it over.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've been through a lot in my life, and if I haven't been through it, I know somebody who has.
Exactly.
That's a good thing about life, because others that are much older than you have experienced stuff that can help you, the younger people, get through things. So definitely, if you can't talk to anybody, at least talk to somebody, maybe your grandfather, grandmother, elderly person, because they've lived a long enough time to know and have different outlook on things. It can give you some really valuable advice.
And they're probably not having too many conversations throughout the day, so you're doing them a good deed by giving them someone to talk to, and they probably appreciate that.
Definitely. If you ain't got nothing better to do, definitely go to some of these senior homes and just sit down and talk to people, because it's beneficial for both. It help you because you get that feeling like I'm talking to grandpa, grandma, and they don't judge you. They just love you.
They just listen and
makes their day.
Absolutely. Great point. There's a lot of guys who come out this door.
Ow.
Weapons brings up another good point. She says one of the most dangerous aspects of some mental illnesses is that they feed the illusion that you're alone in your experience. That's just 100% true.
Very true.
Depression being the one that comes to mind first. It feels individuals who are dealing with depression with feelings of hopelessness and doubt and shame. And when you feel that hopeless and when you feel shame and guilt for the way that you're feeling, you do feel all alone and you feel isolated, and people tend to isolate and not want to, seek support, and that's where it can get dangerous. So, that's where we lose people, because, they feel like they're alone and they can't keep going. They don't want to keep going.
It's one of them things as well where no matter how many times you tell someone that they're not alone, and in reality, they probably aren't, but it's very difficult to see that.
Yeah.
Which is, like you say, a real sort of dangerous position and an unfortunate position to be in, definitely.
Absolutely. And that's a symptom of the disorder, especially with depression. Anxiety is the same way. PTSD, there's definitely this sort of pattern too, but it's not like people are necessarily able to control thoughts of hopelessness, control thoughts of feeling isolated. That's what the disease is doing to them. It's not like they're choosing to feel as though they don't want to continue. That's what's happening to them as a result of their disorder.
Yeah.
Dancy Kick says, because of this phenomenon that mental illnesses do. It's another great reason and why these support groups exist, and it helps show people that they're not alone, um, especially once you get to the point of thinking that you're alone. Um, and it helps people see they're not alone when you get to the point of going to one, because sometimes you don't realize you're not alone until you see other people are dealing with an issue too.
Oh yeah, I agree.
It kind of goes
I mean,
back to when I said that I was talking to a few people at a wedding, and just so many people that would be so close to you could be going through similar sort of things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, I could vouch for that because being a single dad myself, when I came in contact with the Dads of Destiny, I did, I knew. I mean, I knew there were other single dads out there raising their children, and but I got to play with a bunch of them. Like, wow, these guys know exactly what I'm talking about, and so it's so easy to talk to them because they know exactly how I feel. They've been through it, they've done it. Some of the older people that are in the group give me all kinds of valuable advice, and you don't normally expect to take advice from a perfect stranger, but in some cases, it's perfect advice that fits exactly you, and you can relate to it, and so it makes the most sense, and so you can get out of it, you get a lot out of it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that advice that you might get from a perfect stranger is the advice that saves your life. And whether that stranger is a mental health counselor that you meet once, and or whether it's someone who you see on the street, they could be the one person that saves your life. And so the flip side of that is be that stranger. Be someone who reaches out and advocates for someone who's feeling down or feeling depressed or anxious or experiencing nightmares from PSD or excuse me, PTSD or X, Y, and Z. Someone who's about to have a psychotic break, someone who's experiencing psychosis. There's hundreds of ways that you can step in and not only be an advocate for yourself if you're dealing with mental health issues, but also be an advocate for the people you love. Reaching out, and you can't force them to do anything you don't want to do, but you can be there as a support system. You can let them know that whenever they're ready, you're ready.
Yep, definitely.
So I do just want to make sure, because we are about to wrap up here, and I appreciate everyone with their input in the chat. I did my best to make sure I acknowledged everyone the best I could. I do just want to make sure the next person who's up is ready to go, so when I log out, you guys will be able to log in. So you just want to pop in chat and let me know that you're ready. That'd be good. I will say, before we wrap up and towards the end here, for those of us who are watching, who are in the US, you can go online and Google Suicide Hotline and it'll pop up. Their number is 1-800-273-8255. It's toll free, and I promise you, I've had patients who have used it. I've had friends who have used it. You don't have to call them if you're feeling suicidal. If you just need someone to talk to and you don't have any options, there's no one around, call them, speak with them. They will talk you through it. They will help you feel better. They are just as educated as the next person on how to walk people through a crisis, walk people through feelings of depression, anxiety, psychosis, etc. They're there to help you. There's also a new function where you can chat online with them. It's not just a phone call anymore. They are accessible 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I know internationally, almost every country has a suicide hotline, which will provide you with the same sort of help. So.
And
You
if all
guys,
else fails, like
go
I
ahead.
said before, feel free to call me. I will talk to you.
There you go. Yeah. There you go.
If your country doesn't have suicide hotline, call me. I'll pay the long distance charges.
Hop on Xbox Live and talk to Radical, Buckshot George, or Hui, and
Right.
we'll help you out. I'm not going to counsel you, disclaimer, but I'll help you feel better best I can.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll just
Yeah,
talk.
I mean the whole takeaway for me of this sort of stream and things like sort of the surrounding issues is speak to someone. If you are feeling low, if you do have any issues or things like that. I know it's easier said than done, so obviously I'm not saying that I understand absolutely everything. Just in my experience, mental health counseling has been really, really good for me. And if it's something that you haven't tried, or it might just be worth giving it a go, because it might be a real help to sort of your life and things like your life and things. So give it a go.
Yeah, nicely said. I appreciate everyone who's in the chat, who is participating, everyone who is watching, even if you weren't participating. Thank you to Hui and Buckshot George for joining me
You're very welcome.
for
It's been
this
good fun.
this hour. I hope people have a little more insight into mental health counseling and the field, and I hope everyone stays healthy. And when you can't be healthy, we're here for you. That's what we do. So, thanks everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of the stream, and stay cool.
Take it easy.
Stay tuned for more. We'll be back.